What if I told you that nearly 70% of charitable donations could be fueling scams instead of saving lives? In a world boasting over 10 million charitable organizations, it's becoming increasingly difficult to distinguish the genuine from the fraudulent. And while many of these scams go unnoticed because they target individuals, some fool entire nations, gulping billions of dollars that go nowhere but in the pockets of their orchestrators. Stay with us as we discuss the evil business of fake charities, including the popular celebrities that have been caught up in these allegations and the exploitation of Africa in this trend. The non-profit sector, popular for being driven by good intentions, often have to operate like a business to stay afloat. This side of the story means that they must pay fundraising costs, marketing expenses, and staff salaries to function properly. But here is where things get complicated. Situations like this introduce a complex reality that has these organizations racking their heads for what they are supposed to be focused on, whether it is chasing money or chasing goals. Some charities may start to prioritize income, spending more on attracting donors than on their stated cause to stay afloat. But it doesn't stop there. Over time, the constant exposure to large sums of money can blur the lines between right and wrong, even for those with the best intentions. And when these temptations take hold, some organizations make the wrong choices and end up turning into businesses disguised as charities. Take the Kids Wish Network, a wish-granting organization for children with life-threatening conditions. With such a goal, it was not that difficult for the organization to attract million-dollar donations and star support from celebrities like John Cena and Taylor Swift, except that the charity was a reportedly sham organization with no intentions of saving kids. Former employees and whistleblowers exposed the charity's method, revealing that it was exploiting stories of terminally ill children to bring in more donations than it actually needed. A year-long investigation by the Tampa Bay Times and the Center for Investigative Reporting confirmed these revelations, also ranking it as the worst charity in the US. It was further discovered that out of the $128 million raised by the charity in nearly a decade, only about 30% went to the victims, while the rest of the money was ridiculously spent on operational costs. Among these operational costs were millions reportedly siphoned into external companies linked to the founder of the charity under the guise of patronizing his services. Despite the IRS regulations stating that such payments were to be disclosed to the government, the payments to Brainer's companies went unreported until 2012, when an employee concerned finally forced disclosure. Yet, the charity was able to escape such a clear attempt at fraud by simply blaming the misconduct on accounting errors. Looking at how easy these charity organizations have it, it is no wonder why celebrities have joined the club only to feign sympathy for the world problems and go behind to profit from it. Naomi Campbell, for example, faced exactly these allegations after an investigation into her Fashion for Relief charity organization revealed how she was spending the organization's donation on personal wants and luxuries. During its 9-year run, the Fashion for Relief charity claimed that it was helping people stuck in adversities globally, raising money through celebrity fashion shows, just like its name implied, and also receiving individual donations. However, what was being said on the outside was different from what was being said on the inside. After UNICEF filed a formal complaint to the UK Charity Commission against Naomi's organization for using its name on promotional materials when they were not in any form of partnership, it somehow became apparent that something fishy was going on with the charity, leading to a full-blown investigation that opened a can of worms. It was discovered that Naomi was running nothing worthy of a charity, as more than 90% of the money donated to the organization went into covering the cost of luxury hotels, spa treatments, private jet travels, and private security, leaving very little for the charity's cause. In her defense, the supermodel insisted on never using the donations for herself, blaming any misappropriations that may have occurred on her absence in running the organization. But despite these claims, They were not enough to spare her from a 5-year ban from doing any charity work in the UK. While the world might feign surprise, allegations like that are not hard to find when it comes to Africa, the hot breeding ground for the fake charity business. Unlike Naomi, big names have been known to seep in and out without consequences, often leaving the population grappling with the after effect of fake promises upon another. Among these big names is the great American singer Madonna and her charity in Malawi named Raising Malawi. The charity started with the high hopes of building an elite $15 million girls' academy in the country, which Madonna herself funded with $11 million from her own pockets and an extra $7 million in donations. Thanks to her star power, time went on and not much news was coming from the project again, because nothing was actually going on except the procurement of 2 cars for employees that were yet to be appointed and the vanishing of $3.8 million on a school architecture that didn't exist. The management, led by the boyfriend of Madonna's former trainer, was slammed with mismanagement so severe that the possibility of building the school had diminished astronomically. This led to a replacement of the board members, bringing in Madonna and her manager to the new caretaker board so that the singer could be an active participant in the administration of her charity. However, the villagers who had already given up their houses for the school construction without seeing any result were not having it, including the president of Malawi, whose office harshly accused Madonna of exaggerating her conditions to the country and expecting a royal treatment. The American singer opposed the statement by labeling it as lies, insisting that her intentions towards Malawi, where she had adopted 2 kids, were of goodwill and started a long time ago. In order to leave a meaningful impact, the failed academy turned into the construction of 10 classroom blocks at already existing schools, reportedly serving 4,000 children who were formerly learning under trees. Yet, questions about the misplaced millions were lost in silence, and the cries of girl-child education in Malawi were never heard again. While the spotlight was focused on Malawi, another education charity was secretly running a similar scam in Kenya, much to the ignorance of its host community and donors alike. In 2013, a high school student from the United States traveled down to Kenya to see for herself the small school that the WE charity organization had promised to build with the $25,000 donation he and his classmates raised for a certain community in Kenya. Similar to the young student, it was only part of a charity project run by the WE charity that had claimed to build over 900 schools across different regions, raising money from school-aged students and wealthy individuals in the US who wanted some of these schools to be built in their name. Unlike what happened in Malawi, there was actually a school building for the American student who had come to see for himself, exactly like the one he had been shown through photos. However, there was little difference he couldn't have noticed from the pictures, which was an inscription mark on the door. The inscription revealed a dedication to another foundation that, according to online records, had already financed the same schoolhouse. This revelation sparked an investigation that uncovered a deeper scam. It turned out that the WE charity had constructed fewer than half of the 900 schools it had claimed to build. Instead, the organization pocketed much of the donations and reportedly resold the same schools to different donors. One donor, for instance, discovered that a schoolhouse established in memory of his late son had been funded not just once or twice, but a staggering 4 times. "We believed we were changing lives," the young American student recounted with disappointment and regret. When confronted for their fraudulent actions, the WE co-founder simply said that they were mistakes, but a former employee revealed that they were indeed deliberate actions, carefully orchestrated by the senior leaders to exploit their donors, who could not easily verify their activities from thousands of miles away. The stretching distance has always been a safe cover for these fake charity organizations operating in Africa, making it easier to sell fake stories to donors in their home countries. To grasp the length to which some individuals will go, consider this charity that borrowed a baby to cook up a story about human trafficking. Project Rescue Children, led by a certain Adam Whittington, claimed to have dramatically rescued a newborn baby named Mireya from claws of child traffickers, including photographs of the rescued baby with the report. The report quickly went viral online, drawing sympathies and opening wallets from all corners. Thousands of dollars poured in donations, congratulating PRC for saving baby Mireya and encouraging them to do more. But here is the twist. Everything was a lie. The baby in fact had never been rescued from traffickers. She had lived with her mother in a nearby village all along. The little girl's mother had been approached by the charity when the girl was just 3 months old, promising her financial assistance for her cooperation. However, months passed after the agreement was made and the poor woman never heard from her benefactors again. Only rumors of her daughter's image being circulated widely online. The mother eventually shared her experience with online outlets, prompting an investigation that further exposed Adam Whittington and his charity. Not only was their baby Mireya story cooked up, but also their claim of rescuing over 900 children and catering for them in a rescue shelter that didn't exist. While Africa has become a hotbed for these shady activities, the fake charity business does not spare any region, as even America has been forced to shut down multiples of them after the occurrence of an incident that was labeled the worst charity scam in US history took place. Over $75 million was lost to one man and his associates who ran the Cancer Fund of America and other health charity organizations that appeared to operate separately. Under the control of the man, James Reynolds, the CFA and its other charities such as the Breast Cancer Society, the Children's Cancer Fund of America, and the Cancer Support Services raked in the sum of $128 million from different fundraising events, which was made possible by the well-paid telemarketers who were quite good at selling the charities to donors. It was heyday for Reynolds and his circle, who were reportedly living in extravagance, making lavish expenses, and taking vacations. The senior executives at the charity were aware of the fact that only less than 5% of the donations were actually reaching the victims, but it was nothing to worry about as long as everyone took their fat paychecks home. It wasn't until investigative efforts by the Tampa Bay Times and other charity watchdogs backed by the whistleblowers revealed the groundbreaking decay at the popular charity, forcing the federal government and 50 US states to sworn into action. The famous case was handled by the Federal Trade Commission until 2015, when the final judgment effectively dissolved every charity linked to Mr. Reynolds, bringing his charity business empire to an end. However, none of the donation funds were recovered, as the charity founder and associates had exhausted nearly everything. Given that there was not enough proof to expose any criminal intent, the case was handled as a civil lawsuit instead of a criminal one, saving Mr. Reynolds from being convicted. Meanwhile, he was banned for life from managing or operating any charitable organization, echoing the fall of only but a single pawn in the game of charity scams, where everyone is innocent until they are not. According to the Washington Post, the health charity sector has been characterized with the gulping of million-dollar donations with nothing tangible to show for it. And while it is unfair to slam all health charities as a result of the CFA scandal, it is obvious that many more are out there pocketing huge fractions of donations while letting out crumbs to the people that they pledged to protect. These scams have become relatively easy to execute due to the high tendency of regulatory agencies to go easy on non-profits and the lack of serious consequences for misconduct. From Europe to Africa, people continue to cash in on human sympathy, trading the popularity of humanity goals for money, and turning both donors and receivers into victims of human greediness. This transfers the weight of responsibility to the public, who must sadly begin to treat these middlemen charities with utmost vigilance and skepticism to ensure that our little contributions and efforts truly serve mankind. Therefore, holding this unfortunate trend at a chokehold should become as important as ever, because if we do not do so, we risk enabling the cycle of exploitation that will undermine the very spirit of charity.